My ex was better in every way. I settled for you, and I regret it every day, she said during an argument. I said nothing, finished washing the dishes, and went to bed. The next morning, she woke up to an empty closet and my keys on the table. Called 47 times. I never answered. Hey viewers, I'll be honest, this channel is demonetized. My ability to keep creating these stories is officially in your hands. I want to keep producing, but I need your direct support to stay in business. If you want these videos to stay on your feed, join the Patreon below. You're the only reason I can keep doing this. The biggest mistake a man can make is subsidizing his own disrespect. I didn't see it that way at the time, of course. I thought I was being a good, traditional partner. When Qley and I had been dating for 8 months, she hit a severe financial wall. She lived in a gorgeous, overpriced 2-bedroom apartment downtown, and her freelance graphic design business was tanking. The stress was eating her alive. So, I made the logical, supportive choice. I gave up my cheaper place, moved in with her, and quietly took over the heavy lifting. It was her name on the lease, but it was my paycheck keeping the lights on. I paid the $2,400 rent. I paid the internet so she could work. I paid the electric, the water, and usually covered the groceries. My mindset was simple. I made good money as a project manager, and I wanted to take the pressure off her so she could rebuild her career and her mental health. But gratitude has a very short shelf life. Once the threat of eviction was gone, she didn't use her newfound peace to hustle. She used it to get bored. Our dynamic rapidly settled into a toxic routine. I was the anchor, she was the storm. I worked 50 hours a week, came home, cooked dinner, and handled the chores because she was always creatively drained. But instead of appreciating the stability I provided, she started resenting me for it. My reliability became predictable. My responsible nature became stifling. And that's when the ghost moved in. His name was Brad. He was her ex-boyfriend, a guy she dated for 2 years before me. From what she had told me early on, Brad was a wildly impulsive bartender who thought financial planning meant buying scratch-off tickets. Their relationship had been a volatile, toxic nightmare of screaming matches, jealousy, and eventual betrayal. But in Qley's newly comfortable, rent-free reality, Brad was suddenly romanticized into a symbol of lost passion. She started weaponizing his memory against me in the smallest, most insidious ways. She used him as a phantom yardstick to measure my perceived shortcomings. If I suggested we stay in on a Friday night to decompress after a grueling week at the office, she'd roll her eyes, letting out a long, theatrical sigh. Brad used to just grab me and drive us to the city for midnight concerts. He actually knew how to live. If I spent my Saturday morning under the bathroom sink fixing a leak instead of entertaining her, she'd lean against the doorframe, sipping the expensive coffee I bought, and murmur her critiques. It's just, you're so domestic. Brad couldn't fix a sink to save his life, but at least he had a pulse. Everything with you is just so safe. I never took the bait. I'd just wipe my hands, put the tools away, and go about my day. I thought my stoicism proved my maturity. I thought refusing to engage with her petty, manufactured drama made me the bigger man. I didn't realize I was just giving her permission to sharpen her knives for the execution. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind of exhausting, bone-deep tired where all you want is a hot shower and silence. I had just walked in the door after a brutal 10-hour sprint of back-to-back meetings. My head was pounding, but as I walked into the kitchen, the sink was piled high with plates, crusty mugs, and a pan caked in dried pasta sauce from whatever late lunch she had made herself. Qley was stationed on the living room sofa, her legs draped over the armrest, thumb scrolling relentlessly through her phone. She didn't look up when I came in. "Hey," I said, loosening my tie and setting my briefcase down. "You forgot the almond milk," she said, her voice flat, eyes still glued to her screen. "I texted you." I pulled my phone out of my pocket. There was a text sent 20 minutes ago, while I was already navigating gridlock traffic on the interstate. "Sorry, I didn't see it until just now. I can grab some tomorrow." I rolled up my sleeves, turned on the tap, and grabbed the sponge. The hot water hit my cold hands, and I let out a slow exhale, just trying to wash away the day. "Tomorrow doesn't help me tomorrow morning, does it?" she snapped. I heard the thud of her phone hitting the coffee table. Her bare feet slapped against the hardwood floor as she marched into the kitchen, leaning against the counter, radiating hostility. It's a simple request, but I guess expecting you to be considerate is asking too much. I focused on the pan. Scrub, rinse, repeat. Qley, it's almond milk. It's not a big deal. I'll run out before work if it means that much to you. It's not about the milk, she yelled, her voice echoing off the tile. It's about the fact that you never pay attention. You're just on autopilot. Wake up, go to work, come home, wash dishes, go to sleep. You're like a robot. I'm working extra hours so we can afford this place, I said, my voice deliberately low and measured. The hot water cascaded over a ceramic plate, steam rising in the cool kitchen air. I'm just trying to keep everything running. My calmness was pouring gasoline on her fire. She wanted me to snap. She needed me to be the villain so she could feel justified in her resentment. Oh, right, the great provider, she mocked, throwing her hands in the air. You think paying a few bills makes you some kind of hero? You think that makes up for the fact that you have zero personality? Zero passion? I didn't answer. I reached for a soapy sponge and began scrubbing the rim of a coffee mug. The silence in the room grew deafening, punctuated only by the rhythmic squeak of the sponge against the wet ceramic. She stepped closer, her face flushed with anger. She needed to break me. She needed to see me bleed. She crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing as she delivered the kill shot. Brad was better in every way, she sneered, her voice dropping to a vicious, venomous pitch. I settled for you, and I regret it every day. The words hung in the air, heavy and toxic. She stood there, chest heaving, waiting for the explosion. She was bracing for me to slam the mug down, to scream at her, to finally give her the chaotic, dramatic fight she was craving. I felt my heartbeat slow down. The pounding in my head vanished, replaced by a crystalline, freezing clarity. I didn't look at her. I rinsed the mug, watching the suds spiral down the drain. I placed it gently on the drying rack. I reached forward and turned the faucet off. The sudden silence in the kitchen was absolute. I picked up the towel and dried my hands meticulously, finger by finger. I folded the towel and laid it flat on the counter. Then, I walked past her. I didn't look her in the eye. I didn't say a single word. I reached over, flicked the kitchen light switch down, plunging her side of the room into darkness, and walked down the hallway to the bedroom. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. I expected to feel the sting of heartbreak. I expected anger to finally boil over, demanding some kind of retribution or argument. But there was nothing, just a vast, cold, empty space where my attachment to her used to be. The disrespect wasn't just a red flag, it was terminal. She came to bed an hour later. She didn't try to touch me or speak to me. She just aggressively fluffed her pillows and rolled over, radiating a smug, silent satisfaction. She thought she had won. She thought my silence meant I had absorbed the blow, accepted my place as the lesser man, and that tomorrow I would probably apologize just to keep the peace and fix the tension. Within 20 minutes, her breathing leveled out into a deep, heavy rhythm. She was fast asleep. I slipped out from under the covers. I didn't turn on a single light. I didn't need to. I pulled my duffel bag and a medium suitcase from the back of the closet. Moving with the methodical, soundless precision of a ghost, I began to pack. I took only what was fundamentally mine: my suits, my casual clothes, my laptop, my documents, and my toiletries. I left the expensive espresso machine I bought her. I left the television. I left the designer lamps. Those things were just artifacts of a dead civilization. I didn't want them. When my bags were zipped, I sat on the edge of the living room armchair, the only light in the room coming from the sterile, bright glow of my phone screen. I opened my banking app. First, I navigated to the portal for her building's management company. I clicked Payment Options, selected my linked checking account, and hit Remove. The auto-pay for the $2,400 monthly rent vanished. Next, I went to the internet provider's app, Cancel Service. Effective immediately. Finally, the utility accounts. I couldn't close them since the lease was in her name, but I deleted my credit card from the recurring billing profiles. With a few taps of my thumb, I surgically severed the financial life support. She was officially living on her own dime again. It was 3:14 a.m. I carried my bags to the front door and set them down quietly. I walked into the kitchen one last time. The moonlight was spilling across the countertops, catching the edge of the drying rack. The coffee mug I had meticulously washed was sitting exactly where I left it. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the heavy brass key to the apartment, and set it gently on the wooden table. It made a soft, final clink. I walked out, pulled the door shut behind me until the deadbolt clicked, and stepped out into the crisp, freezing morning air. The suffocating weight that had been crushing my chest for the last year was instantly gone. I took a deep breath, hailed a rideshare to a hotel, and disappeared. The sun was just starting to break over the city skyline when I sat down in a booth at a corner diner 3 miles away. The waitress poured me a black coffee, leaving a small ceramic mug on the chipped formica table. The diner smelled like bacon grease and bleached floors, a sharp, grounding contrast to the lavender-scented, tension-filled apartment I had just abandoned. I took a slow sip of the coffee. It was bitter and burnt, and it was the best thing I had tasted in a year. At exactly 8:15 a.m., my phone, sitting face up next to my plate, vibrated. The screen illuminated with her name, Qley. I watched it buzz until it went to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. Then again. I didn't silence it. I just sat there, eating my eggs, and watching the physical manifestation of her realization light up the screen. By the time I paid my check and walked back to my hotel room, there were 47 missed calls. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and tapped the voicemail icon. I didn't feel anxious. I felt like a technician reviewing data. I played them in order. Voicemail 1. 8:20 a.m. Her voice was dripping with that familiar, grating annoyance. Where are you? Are you seriously throwing a tantrum over a fight? You didn't even make the coffee. Grow up, Mark, and bring me an iced latte when you come back. I have work to do. She still thought she held the power. She thought I was just taking a walk to cool off, thoroughly trained to return with her morning beverage as an apology for her disrespect. I skipped to the middle of the list. Voicemail 15. 9:45 a.m. The annoyance was gone, replaced by a tight, breathless confusion. Mark, your closet is completely empty. Your bags are gone. What is this? This isn't funny. If this is some kind of lesson, point taken, okay? Stop playing games and call me back. I scrolled down further, giving the reality of her financial situation time to hit her. Voicemail 28. 11:30 a.m. The panic had fully set in. Her voice was shrill, echoing off the empty walls of her apartment. Did you cancel the Wi-Fi? I can't get into my client portal. And I just checked the building management app. The auto pay for the rent is gone. The card is removed. Mark, rent is due in 4 days. You can't just leave me with this. Answer the goddamn phone. I let the automated voice guide me to the very last message. Voicemail 47. 3:15 p.m. She was weeping. Not the manipulative, pretty crying she used to get her way, but ugly, ragged, hyperventilating sobs. Please, Mark, please pick up. I didn't mean it. I swear to God I didn't mean what I said about Brad. I was just mad. I was just trying to get a reaction out of you. I'm so sorry. I can't afford this place. I have $200 in my checking account. Please, please tell me you're coming back. Please. The recording ended, leaving a stark, heavy silence in the hotel room. I felt absolutely no pity. She hadn't apologized for breaking my heart. She was apologizing because the safety net she had spent a year cutting with a knife had finally given way. She didn't miss me. She missed the Wi-Fi. She missed the rent money. She missed the maid service. I calmly deleted the entire thread of voicemails. I opened her contact file, tapped block caller, and tossed the phone onto the mattress. I grabbed my laptop, opened a new tab, and began browsing for a new apartment closer to my office. The extraction was complete. 6 months is a lifetime when you're moving forward, but it's just a blink of an eye when you're falling backward. I spent those months building. I landed a promotion to senior project manager, moved into a sleek, quiet one-bedroom loft that I actually liked, and spent my evenings at the gym instead of tiptoeing around a moody adult toddler. My life was predictable, yes, but it was a rich, peaceful predictability. Then, the email arrived. It slipped past my blocked contacts because she had created a brand new, sterile email address just to send it. The subject line read, "Please just read this." I didn't know her my time, but I opened it while drinking my morning coffee. It was a massive, frantic wall of text. It didn't start with an apology, it started with a confession. Without my income, she couldn't cover even a fraction of the rent and the accumulated late fees. When the eviction notice was finally taped to her door, she panicked, and did exactly what she had threatened to do. She called Brad. She sought out the spark. Her email detailed her own personal hell. Brad, the man who actually knew how to live, didn't even have an apartment of his own. He was bouncing between friends' couches. But he gladly convinced her to sell her remaining furniture and move into an extended stay motel with him while they figured things out. In less than 2 months, he had drained the last few $100s she made from selling the expensive espresso machine I had bought her. Then, true to his passionate, impulsive nature, he vanished. He cleared out her wallet while she was sleeping and ran off with a 21-year-old bartender, leaving Qley with maxed-out credit cards and an unpaid motel bill. "You were right," she wrote near the end, the desperation practically bleeding through the screen. "About everything. He ruined me, Mark. I'm sleeping in my sister's unfinished basement. I alienated all my friends because I wouldn't stop crying about what a mistake I made. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away for a fantasy. Please, I just want to hear your voice." I finished my coffee. I didn't feel a surge of triumphant vindication. I didn't feel the urge to gloat. I just felt a mild, passing pity, the kind you feel when you see someone drop their ice cream on the sidewalk. I clicked the trash icon, permanently deleted the email, and headed to the gym. It happened 2 months later. I was stepping out of a high-end cafe half a block from my firm, an iced coffee in one hand and my briefcase in the other. The sun was bright, and I was mentally preparing for a 2 p.m. strategy meeting. "Mark," I stopped and turned around. Standing near the patio railing was Qley. The physical transformation was jarring. The glossy, arrogant woman who used to lounge on my couch critiquing my ambition was completely gone. Her hair was pulled into a messy, unwashed knot. She was wearing a faded, oversized sweater, and the dark circles under her eyes made her look 10 years older. She looked thoroughly broken. She stepped into my path, her hands shaking as she clutched the strap of a cheap purse. I knew your office was around here. I've been sitting on this bench every lunch hour for a week, hoping I'd see you." I looked at her, my face completely neutral. "Hello, Qley." Her eyes welled up with tears immediately. The calm, unbothered tone of my voice seemed to shatter whatever composure she had left. "You look amazing," she whispered, her eyes darting over my tailored suit, my clean-cut appearance, and the expensive watch on my wrist. "I sent you an email. I don't know if you got it. Mark, I am so sorry. Brad destroyed my life. He took everything from me. I see now that what we had, what you gave me, that was real love. I was just too blind and immature to see it." She took a half step closer, lowering her voice into a desperate, pleading register. "I miss our life. I miss how safe I felt with you. I would do anything, to go back to that kitchen and take those words back. Please, can we just sit down? Just for 10 minutes. She was expecting anger. She was bracing for me to lash out, to throw her mistakes in her face, to yell at her the way Brad would have. If I yelled, it meant I still cared. It meant she still had a hook in me. I didn't yell. I didn't even frown. I looked at her with the polite, empty detachment of a man declining a flyer on the street. "There's nothing to talk about, Qley," I said, my voice smooth and utterly devoid of emotion. "You wanted a different life, and you got it. But I made a mistake," she sobbed, her voice cracking as a few pedestrians turned to look at the commotion. "I chose the wrong guy. He was terrible to me." I checked my watch, adjusting my cuff. I met her tear-filled eyes one last time. "I'm glad you found your way back to him," I said quietly. "Good luck with the lease." I didn't wait for her to respond. I stepped around her and merged into the flow of the midday city traffic. I didn't look back to see her standing there, frozen and weeping on the sidewalk. I didn't need to. I had a meeting at 2, a date at 7, and a life that was completely, entirely my own. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. If you enjoy these stories and would like to help support the channel, my Patreon is linked in the description. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments.